I've given him my life and my youth, my allegiance, and now he's trying to steal the little that remains. Those were words that didn't just resonate in the courtroom corridors. They resonated on all screens where the public was following this drama in real time. For Janelle Brown, this was much more than a case of property rights. Hi friend, it's Ania. Welcome back to Reality Recap. This was her moment of stand, her point of no return. Having been spiritually married to Kody Brown for almost 3 decades, Janelle wasn't going quietly into the night. She was stepping into a courtroom adamant that her voice would finally be heard. The calm, rational one, the wife who maintained her demeanor when pandemonium erupted around her, Janelle was always the one who kept her priorities centered on her children, her money, and maintaining harmony while others grappled with envy and competition in the complex polygamy universe. But harmony for her came at a high price. With the passing years, her voice receded into the distance. Kody's focus wandered, particularly once Robyn came onto the scene. The emotional distance grew. Decisions were made without her. Promises were not kept. And when Janelle at last fixed on constructing her ultimate dream house on the family's joint property at Coyote Pass, the same property she had helped to pay for, she was caught off guard when Kody legally stopped her. That was it, the turning point. "You want to control me with paperwork now?" she told him, tears threatening but never fully falling. "After everything I've sacrificed for this family? No, not this time." She called a lawyer, and in that moment the woman who had once played by every rule in the world Kody built was now the one taking him to court. It was a brisk, cold morning in Flagstaff, Arizona. Rumors had already spread. Kody Brown, the polygamist patriarch of 18 and reality TV star of Sister Wives, was going to go head-to-head in court with one of his wives. Not regarding divorce, but regarding land. Cameras lingered outside the courthouse. Fans mobbed social media. Inside, it was nothing whatsoever like the TLC confessionals or family therapy sessions to which viewers were accustomed. This was actual law, actual stakes, actual consequences. Janelle arrived first wearing a blue soft jacket, her face set and firm. She didn't appear to be angry, she appeared determined. By her side stood her son Logan and Gabriel standing behind them, both frustrated for years with their father and happy to stand in her defense without hesitation. Kody arrived a few minutes later, dressed impeccably, accompanied by his lawyers, and grasping Robyn's hand, the woman whom so many thought had taken over his heart and home. The air was charged with tension, thick enough to suffocate on. He nodded curtly at Janelle. She did not reciprocate. The judge entered, and it was time for one of the most charged courtroom fights this family had ever witnessed. As the attorneys stood ready to give their arguments, the atmosphere was thick with something more than real estate rights. This was about recognition, about being recognized at last, after all those years of emotional erasure. Janelle's lawyer started. "Your Honor, my client, Janelle Brown, invested tens of thousands of dollars in the Coyote Pass property. She was told she would have the opportunity to construct a house there for herself and her children. That was violated. We are in court today to provide her with legal title to that which she had financially invested in and emotionally attached herself to." The judge nodded slowly before addressing Kody's team. His lawyer, smooth-tongued and experienced, responded, "The land was purchased through a family trust. No one held sole possession. Mr. Brown's issue is not withholding Mrs. Brown access, but being able to use the land in a fair and equitable manner for all parties concerned." But Janelle's face told a different tale, one of years of listening to the same excuses. When her turn came, she spoke more forcefully than ever. "I was always promised I'd have a spot there. I contributed to the cost. I put off building my house because Kody said it wasn't time. And then he said it again and again and again. And now he's drawing up building plans with Robyn while I wait. This is not about land issues anymore. It is about being ignored. I gave this family everything and I'm finished being overlooked." In the gallery, Christine Brown, now happily remarried and out of the Brown family chaos, folded her arms and quietly stood by Janelle. She'd experienced her own betrayal and recognized this fight ran much deeper than property lines. Meri Brown's face was tougher to decipher. She'd lost Kody's connection before, but wasn't sure she cared to see it blow up so publicly. Robyn, sitting alongside Kody, appeared uncomfortable. She clutched his hand and mumbled something, but his gaze remained on the judge. For years, Kody had governed his family with firm rules and high ideals about oneness, devotion, and sacrifice. But now, his rule was being challenged in the face by the very woman who had once silently sustained it. The judge declared a brief recess. The courtroom hummed with whispers. Reporters launched rapid dispatches, and outside the world waited. And Janelle, she sat quietly, combing through a pile of papers, bank statements, receipts, and ancient text messages from Kody that clearly established she'd receive her portion of the land. Janelle wasn't just fighting for herself that day. She was standing on behalf of every meek wife who had given so much and received nothing. When court reconvened, the judge expressed his concern. From where I sit, the lines between religious and legal obligations in this family are blurrier than a mime's face. But owning property is a legal issue, and that's what we will consider. Janelle's lawyer started placing the evidence on the table. PayPal transactions, loan contracts, and even emails from Kody himself authorizing her to make payments for particular parcels in Coyote Pass. Kody's lawyers seemed rattled. They had anticipated emotional complaints, not a well-documented paper trail. "We always presented as one whole," Kody eventually said on his own behalf. "We built it together. We decided things together. I didn't want to split us up. I wanted us to stay a family." Janelle didn't take her gaze from the windshield. "You say we were a family," she said in an even voice. "But families don't steal from each other. They don't lie. They don't make promises they never have any intention of keeping." The room temperature appeared to change. This was no longer a matter of property contention. This was years of history coming untangled. Janelle had documentation, and Kody was now cornered by his own signed agreements. The sister wives' conflict had moved beyond television drama. It was real, it was binding, and it was explosive. Tune in for Session 2. The voiceover could just as well have announced the betrayal in the papers, where Kody's hold begins to slip and Janelle's power beams brighter than ever. From the made-for-TV drama Kody vs. Janelle, the battle for justice. Kody had once told her it didn't matter whose name appeared on the deed, because in his words, we're one family. Janelle's voice cracked slightly as she read from a printed email. But now, suddenly it matters, and he's using it against me. Day 2 of court opened under a heavier, chillier air. Outside, the courthouse parking lot was rimmed with news vans. Online, hashtags such as #TeamJanelle and #KodyInCourt were rising on the trends list. In court, Janelle sat surrounded by years of files, papers, and memories, each item a morsel of her years lived believing, trusting, and sacrificing. But the strongest evidence she possessed wasn't legal. It was personal. It was the truth, and today she planned to bear it all. As the judge banged the courtroom into order, Kody hunched forward, arms crossed regarding Janelle with a wary gaze. His attorneys had told him the property was out of reach, untouchable under the family trust with no one to claim it. But Janelle's lawyer held an ace, something more compelling than a deed, a string of intent, a paper trail, and the betrayal legible between the lines. Janelle's attorney stood, showing a string of emails and messages on the large screen, each with date-time stamp and unmistakably from Kody. "You'll have the upper plot, Jan. It'll be yours. Just hang on a little longer until we finalize the house plans. Kody Brown, June 2018. Another flashed. "You've covered more than anyone. I promise you'll have your piece. You've earned it. Kody Brown, November 2019. One by one, the messages constructed a narrative of a man promising verbally and in writing, while using Janelle's funds to purchase and hold on to the land. Her attorney then followed up with bank statements, $82,000 plus transfers from Janelle's private account for land preparation, survey, and permits, most of which were never utilized. Janelle spoke with measured calm, but her words held authority. He said, "Wait. Told me it was all ours. Told the family would live there together." I waited. while he constructed dreams with Robyn and set mine aside. I waited, while my sons wandered away from their father because he selected one house, one woman, one life. The judge pressed on bluntly, "Mrs. Brown, were any of these payments recorded as a loan or a legitimate claim of ownership?" Janelle shook her head. "No, Your Honor. We operated under one man's regime. Kody dictated everything. He said not to worry about forms, saying faith was more powerful than paper." Her words hung in the air. The room was silent. Even Kody's attorney looked taken aback for a moment. Then came the clincher, a $20,000 handwritten check from Janelle to the Brown Family Trust, with the notation, "Coyote Pass, Janelle's future lot." A murmur of shock went through the gallery. Christine's jaw clenched. Even Meri, who had sat through most of the trial with a wary look, raised an eyebrow. "I trusted him," Janelle said to the judge. "I thought my future was being built, not dug up," she went on. "I lived in a fifth-wheel trailer, not out of necessity, but because I thought I was waiting for my future. I slept through the cold temperatures because Kody told me, 'Just wait a little longer, it's coming.'" Robyn's mansion remained heated, but I waited outside in the cold for a dream that never materialized. Whispers spread through the courtroom before the judge's gavel silenced them. Kody's jaw clenched. He spoke softly to his attorney. This was not the same Janelle he once directed. This was a woman remade. When his turn came, his lawyers maintained that the Browns existed beyond the boundaries of conventional legal frameworks. Their contracts were spiritual, based on family trust. He had never disavowed her contributions, they contended, but ownership of Coyote Pass was communal. Janelle's attorney interjected. "If it's communal, why is there only one wife with a house? Why does Robyn enjoy legal protection and comfort, while the others have nothing in their name?" The room descended into a heavy silence. Kody stood to respond. "I loved all my wives. I did my best to be fair, but things didn't turn out the way I wanted." Christine left. Meri pulled away. "And Janelle?" Janelle also stood, meeting his gaze. "No, Kody, I woke up. That's the difference." She then dropped another bombshell, another old family group chat voice message from 2020, Kody speaking. "Robyn and I have decided we'll build first. Once that's done, we'll look into the other lots." The implication was irrefutable. Janelle's lot was an afterthought. "Something that started out as a spiritual vow," her lawyer explained to the judge, "turned into an emotional trap. My client was repeatedly instructed to wait and wait, while one wife got it all. That's not religion, it's coercion." And then, as a shocker, Janelle read a letter she had penned 2 years prior to Kody, but never sent. "Dear Kody, I'm exhausted. I've borne our children, nurtured your aspirations, kept my mouth shut during storms, and had faith in you when people left. But I've learned you only construct with people who feed your ego. I don't desire revenge, I desire peace, and I want the land I paid for because I at least deserve that." The letter wasn't bitter, it was brutal candor. Even some of the people in the gallery were crying. Robyn sat quietly throughout it all, but when Janelle's attorney brought up Kody's favoritism toward her, she winced visibly. Janelle turned to her and addressed her softly, not as an adversary, but as a woman. "This is not your fault, Robyn, but holding your tongue while others hurt is not love. It's enabling." The silence that followed was complete. Kody squirmed uneasily. His control, once sustained by solidarity, was disintegrating under the weight of truth. As the hearing came to a close, the judge turned to them both. "Emotional betrayal cannot be fixed by this court, but it can recognize financial input, promises in writing, and disparity of treatment. Tomorrow, we start the final determination of ownership." Kody's face went pale. Janelle straightened, closing her folder. This wasn't about a piece of land anymore. This was about Pede. He'd said to her that she didn't require papers, because she possessed his heart. But when the dream turned to ice, all she was left with were shattered promises and icy nights. The hearing the following day would have testimony from those most damaged, the children. And with that, Session 3 was arranged. Kids in the crossfire. A chilly Flagstaff morning, Janelle emerged from her SUV, the courthouse looming before her, her expression inscrutable, her pace unbroken. This was bigger than a court appearance. It was a statement, a refusal to be held back by years of disproportion, a moment that might redefine the Brown family legacy. Inside, whispers spat like static. Journalists gathered outside to report on one of the reality television's most dramatic blow-ups. Kody walked in with Robyn, both of their faces carefully set for the cameras. The judge banged the gavel, both sets of lawyers stood poised. The air was thick with deeply buried truths ready to be uttered. Janelle's lawyer began with tact, setting out clearly that it wasn't just about money. It was about respect, dignity, and justice long overdue after decades of devotion to a common dream. Janelle had invested herself in creating the Brown family dream, donating not only her time, but her money into houses, property, and raising children in a plural marriage to which she was not entitled by law. She had never actually been lawfully married to Kody, but she had contributed as much, if not more, than Robyn, the sole wife to possess a legal designation, and now the one alleged to have been siphoning off the family's money. The court was shown sister wives' documents, text messages, and video footage. Tape showing Kody's changing allegiances and his emotional and financial pullback from Janelle and her children over time. One such incident stood out: the Coyote Pass property purchase, originally intended as a family endeavor, now legally in Kody's and Robyn's names only. The courtroom gasped when screens displaying Kody's own words materialized. Assurances of equal portions and eternal fame for all the children, assurances now rendered empty through court documents. Robyn sat stonily as Kody fidgeted in his chair, whispering often to his lawyer and shaking his head as Janelle's team revealed exhibit after exhibit. Then came the clincher. Janelle's lawyer disclosed that she had contributed over $200,000 to family properties, including to Robyn's mortgage in times of financial need. None of it was reimbursed, and Robyn's home was still solely in her name, leaving Janelle with no claim to one property despite all her sacrifices. A whisper went around the court as the judge requested affirmation. "Are you saying Ms. Brown has no deed, no title, and no legal interest in any family property?" Janelle's attorney responded, "That's correct, Your Honor. She departed with nothing but the automobile she used to arrive in." Testifying, Janelle remained calm, detailing years of sacrifice, extra work shifts, vacations for sworn, even using her own inheritance to keep the big family afloat. "I believed in the dream," she whispered. "I thought it was for all of us. But I see now. It was never intended to include me in the end." Kody's lawyer responded with their interpretation, depicting the breakup as a personal choice with no legal connection, focusing on how plural marriage held no legal rights. But this trial was more than a venue for courtroom rhetoric. It was a public forum in which decades of reality television had already provided millions with a front-row seat to the breakdown of the family. Fans were flooding social media with the likes of #JusticeForJane and #Brown, Family Breakdown, live tweeting every moment. Outside the courtroom, journalists were talking about how the trial was generating a larger debate over the rights of women in polygamous marriages. Back in the courtroom, Kody was summoned to the stand, and the proceeding came to its most volatile moment. Under oath, he was questioned. "Did you ever enter into verbal understandings or promises with Janelle regarding ownership of property or repayment?" Kody paused, looking over at Robyn before responding. "We had family agreements, but nothing on paper." The judge continued to push him. "Would you agree that those understandings caused Ms. Brown to make financial decisions she thought would be good for her and her children?" "I guess so." Kody hesitated, looking uncomfortable. That small concession hit like a hammer. A public confirmation of the hurt of Janelle and a visible crack in Kody's tightly held grip on the family narrative. Robyn's demeanor broke when her name kept coming up, along with preferential treatment and financial favoritism. Emails were read out aloud, messages where Robyn asked family money for her kids' expenses, while Janelle's comparable asks were delayed or rejected. The judge requested a recess for lunch, but the mood hummed with energy that hadn't been present before. Janelle had turned the tables. Online fans declared her the heroine of Sister Wives, applauding her for having stood up not just for herself, but for all women who had given without legal recourse. When hearings resumed, Janelle's team surprised everyone by calling a witness no one had anticipated, her daughter Madison. Madison testified about the inequalities she had observed over the years, how her mother was always expected to give without complaining, while Robyn was always treated exceptionally by Kody. Several in the audience had tears come to their eyes as Madison stated, "My mom built this family, she gave up everything for that vision, and then she was just left out." Kody looked stunned. For years, he had counted on his children's loyalty, silence, and faith. Madison's testimony broke that bubble. For the first time that day, Janelle allowed herself to weep, not because she felt defeated, but because of the relief of having her truth finally heard. The judge closed the session by instructing both sides to submit their final financial documents for review and scheduling a hearing the following month to determine restitution or division. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around Janelle, eager for her reaction. "I'm not bitter," she said. "I'm free, and I'm doing this so no other woman has to walk away with empty hands and a broken heart." Her words carried far beyond the courthouse steps, igniting headlines and splashing across YouTube thumbnails worldwide. That day, Janelle Brown was not merely a former sister wife, she was a beacon of strength and empowerment. As Kody and Robyn departed under intense security and blistering media scrutiny, Janelle stepped into the open air, her shoulders unburdened, her future hers at last. The legal battle had barely begun, but she had already emerged victorious in something greater than any judicial decision. She had reclaimed her voice. The next hearing would determine if the law would be in sync with the truth, and if justice would finally swing in favor of the Brown family drama. But for the time being, in this important third session, one thing was certain. Janelle Brown no longer stood in support of Kody. She stood alone, completely by herself. In the subsequent days after her dramatic courtroom breakthrough and the traumatic testimony of her children, the courtroom became a battlefield of accusations, tactical legal tactics, and bare-knuckle confrontations. Janelle sat firm by her legal team, her jaw clenched, hands tightly clasped, eyes fixed on Kody, who seemed more weary with each day. The public was captivated, with news channels providing a daily rundown. A family once united in plural love was now divided under the spotlight of court fights and incessant public scrutiny. Kody's attorneys made a counterattack, diverting attention from emotional abandonment and economic deceit to a defense of a misinterpreted family system. His lawyer, a tough, tenacious trial lawyer, contended that Janelle had taken a keen interest in the family's finances and had never once complained until now. "This is not betrayal," he shouted during a combative courtroom confrontation. "This is rewriting history on behalf of someone who wants to be a victim now that she no longer profits from the family arrangement." Janelle's eyes narrowed at the comment. As her lawyer stood to protest the personal insult, the judge, obviously tired of the emotional roller coaster, told both sides to come up with hard evidence. That's when Janelle's camp dropped a bomb, a string of personal emails and text messages between Kody and a financial advisor that clearly excluded Janelle from major decisions. The communications painted a damning picture. In one, Kody penned, "Janelle doesn't need to know. She trusts me enough not to ask questions. So let's move forward without her signature." The courtroom gasped in shock. Janelle gazed at the printed transcript before her, lips shaking, but she did not weep. She sat up straight and locked eyes with Kody in unyielding determination. Robyn, sitting behind Kody, laid a calming hand on his back, but her eyes betrayed worry. She knew those messages couldn't be dismissed. Even the judge looked momentarily stunned. "Mr. Brown," the judge snapped, "can you tell us why you systematically omitted your legal wife from a financial decision directly affecting her property and means of livelihood?" Kody shifted, standing uncomfortably. "Your Honor, I believed I was defending the family. I have always acted in the best interest of the family. This was not about winning, it was about leadership." The judge was not convinced. Leadership does not need secrets, particularly in a family paradigm you say is founded on trust. Meanwhile, outside the courtroom, the fan base was in an uproar. The Brown family's former fans were divided, some standing by Janelle for taking a stand against decades of systemic manipulation, others defending Kody, accusing the media of distorting the truth. Social media was filled with hashtags such as #justice for Janelle and #Kody was exposed. YouTube channels, TikTok accounts, and Instagram lives were full of continuous commentary. This had expanded beyond a legal battle. It had now become a cultural phenomenon. Back on the stand were financial experts retained by Janelle. They carefully parsed years' worth of bank statements, real estate buys, LLC registrations, and personal spending. That which was revealed was stark. A regular modus operandi of Kody siphoning money through joint accounts to buy property and land exclusively in his own name, frequently with Robyn as a co-owner. In several instances, Janelle had inadvertently assisted in paying on mortgages to which she held no rightful claim. She was used, bluntly declared one financial expert. Her earnings had been depleted, her property exploited, and her name erased systematically. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Brown, do you deny this?" Kody's lawyer tried to protest, saying the representation was inaccurate, but the facts were solid. Kody replied uncertainly, "I thought we were supposed to be one family and that what's mine is hers." Janelle gave an audible snort. "Except the fact that everything is in your name, Kody. That's not love. That's stealing." Feeling the walls closing in on her, Robyn voluntarily took the stand. People figured she'd stick up for Kody without blinking, but what she said was much more complicated. "I never wanted this to become about winners and losers," she whispered. "But eventually, I did realize that choices were being made without consulting the other wives. And yes, I did enjoy benefiting from some of those choices." There was a low murmur in the courtroom. For the first time, Robyn acknowledged the power imbalance. Kody stared at her, stunned, as if betrayed, but she did not meet his gaze. When Janelle returned to the stand, her words pierced the silence. "I gave this man 30 years of my life. I gave loyalty, love, and children. I stayed within the rules of a system I didn't create because I believed in it. But he rewrote those rules. He became someone who used love as leverage, religion as a shield, and power as a weapon. I'm not angry anymore. I'm awake." The judge concluded the day's proceedings with gravitas. "I will weigh this evidence before deciding on the division of assets and possible restitution. But both sides need to know, this is not a divorce or custody matter. This is about responsibility." As the courtroom cleared, Janelle exited her son's sides, her head held high and her steps steady. Kody remained behind, rubbing his temples, his face pale. Cameras flashed and microphones swooped in, but he said nothing. No one predicted what came next. An anonymous tip to the media of a voice recording, purportedly made by one of Kody's children. In it, Kody was heard screaming over the telephone, "She's going to destroy all that I've worked for. I should never have left her in charge of the money." The leak was immediate front-page news, the ultimate crack in the dam. When court resumed the next week under intense public scrutiny, the judge ordered Kody's team to address the audio. They argued it was obtained illegally, but its authenticity was undisputed. "Admissible or not," the judge said, "it mirrors the tone and intent we've seen repeatedly in this case." By this time, Kody's one-time confident stance had crumbled. He looked tired, trapped, and completely isolated. His family was no longer his protector. They were his accuser. And Janelle, once the quiet, subservient wife, stood now as a woman of steel and of truth. As the trial came to a close, the judge vowed to give a verdict shortly. But one thing was sure already: the public had delivered their verdict, and Kody Brown's reputation was forever damaged. The last day came, the courtroom packed with tension so palpable it was almost tangible. News teams, paparazzi, sister wives devotees, and even former friends occupied the seats, all anticipating the climax. Not only the verdict, but the emotional aftershock that was sure to ensue. As Judge Laramie entered the room, silence descended immediately. With a low, resonant voice and an unwavering stare, he brought the session to order. "Let's get on with it," he indicated, surveying both Kody and Janelle, each side of him with lawyers. Janelle was serene, her attorney holding a thick sheaf of papers. Kody's face was clenched, his posture stiff, concealing the turmoil within. This was the moment of truth. Janelle's attorney summoned her to the courtroom one last time. She approached with careful confidence, knowing this was her opportunity to speak her truth, not only for the court, but for the watching world. This was more than it was about property claims or visitation plans. It was about reclaiming the voice she'd never been allowed to have. She spoke slowly, her voice firm. "Your Honor, I dedicated myself to an unconventional family setup for years, but I believed in it. I raised children alongside Kody. I stood by him during public ridicule. I endured monetary setbacks, religious issues, and personal disasters. I never demanded more than I deserved. But when things started to fall apart, when he concentrated only on one wife and excluded the rest of us, I asked for respect, and I received rejection instead." Gasps spread throughout the audience. "I'm not here to ruin Kody," she went on, for the first time locking eyes with him. "I'm here to guard what's rightly mine and my kids, to see that what we created together isn't taken away because he decided to leave." The judge nodded slowly, drinking each word in. When it was Kody's turn, his attorney stood with a fire not evident in previous sessions. Kody entered the stand, clearly upset, and spoke to the court. "I never intended for things to go this way," he started, his hand shaking slightly. "I love Janelle. I still do, and our children. But things changed. Relationships change. That's life. That's marriage, even when it's plural." He addressed the judge. "I did my best to make it work. I did compromises, but she shut down on the spiritual connection we had. She walked away from all the things we'd vowed to each other. I didn't chase her out. She went." "Objection, mischaracterization," interrupted Janelle's attorney. "Sustained," replied the judge, but he permitted Kody to continue. "What I am looking for," Kody said, his voice breaking, "is fairness. I also invested in the property. I contributed my time, my money, my heart, and my soul to creating our life. And now I feel like I am being made out to be the bad guy in a book I helped write." Just when it looked like both sides had played their last cards, Janelle's side made a dramatic play, calling a surprise witness. Madison, one of the adult daughters of Kody and Janelle, stood in the courtroom. A low ripple of whispers moved through the onlookers. Accumulated over that period is recognized by the court. You are given 50% ownership of the family property in contention and sole custody of the minor children in your care. Addressing Kody, the judge went on. "Your input is valued, but your inability to maintain fair treatment among your wives, especially Janelle, is strongly considered in this decision." A silent commotion spread throughout the room. Kody remained frozen, head hung low. Janelle let out a breath, her eyes shining but her tears unchecked. She'd done it, held firm and prevailed. Reporters thronged outside. Janelle stepped out with dignity, refusing to taunt. "This wasn't revenge," she said to a camera crew. "It was about truth and clearing up the record." Kody left shortly after, shunning the press, disappearing into silence. The ruling was a watershed in the sister wives' drama. For years, fans had seen cracks in the foundation. Now they were seeing the fallout. Beyond the headlines and court battles, this was a tale of empowerment, a woman who would not be erased, and a man who had to face the price of emotional abandonment. Ultimately, the courtroom was more than a forum for legal controversy. It was the platform for emotional justice. Janelle's evolution from silent partner to vocal advocate was an inspiration to many. Kody's downfall was not only legal but also personal, a warning lesson in what occurs when relationships are viewed as transactions. And so the curtain fell on one of the reality TV's most dramatic family feuds. But its reverberations would last, not merely in court documents but in people's minds across the globe. Because with the Brown family, it's never really done.